This is Project 13, the Hue Chroma Triangle project in 2 parts. This project is going to rely on previous files, principally from Project 10, the 24-step color wheel, and from Project 11, the grayscale to hue to gray conversion file. Some of this information I will be giving you, but other parts you will have generated on your own. So let's get started. I will be giving you a copy of this file. This is the Hue Chroma Triangle master document. Each color will have one of these, and there are 24 of them. In the end, each of you will work on at least one of these, and everyone in the class will end up with both a printed and a digital copy of this for your notebook. This is the file that we will be using to create all of the tints and shades of our particular colors from. Dependent on the class size, some of the Hue Chroma Triangles will be courtesy of previous classes. The real learning experience isn't in the actual creation of the multiple triangles, rather it is the fact that the class has access to enough critical colors in order to permit the creation of Project 14, the final project for this class. Each semester, we will carefully analyze what the class needs to work on and focus our attention there. This is what the raw file looks like when viewed outside of Photoshop. Remember, the rule lines only show up in Photoshop. We will look at it again when we are finished, but it sometimes helps to see it without all of the rule lines so that you get some idea of what we're working towards. These are the RGB values of the grays that you will be working with in matching up your colors. I will hand out a printed version of this and you will want to refer to it often. What we are going to do next is to open our grayscale to hue file and copy and paste it into the Hue Chroma Triangle. So here I am going to File, Open. Remember, the example for my demo was color 24, and after I did the hue to grayscale example, here it is, the gray to hue master file. Now I'm going to select everything inside of the white frame. I want to transfer this to the Hue Chroma Triangle file. So once I have the area selected with the rectangular marquee tool, I will go to Edit, Copy, or Command-C. Toggling back inside of the Hue Chroma Triangle file, I will do an Edit, Paste, or Command-V. And the file drops here on its own layer. As you can see, you can move it around independent of the background layer. What you will want to do is to move it up and down until you see the gray on the grayscale that matches the gray on the left end of the gray to pure hue file. This appears to be too dark. And this appears to be too light, but we know that our gray is between RGB 124 and 138, and 06 on the Hue Chroma Triangle is RGB 130. So, and just like Goldilocks, this is probably just about right. Now I want you to select the gray at the very end of your transferred file by using the marquee tool and delete the color. Leave the rest alone. Now with the layer open, rename it Value to Pure Hue. This is step 1 in completing the Hue Chroma Triangle. The next step will be to fill in all of the tints above this file and all the shades below it. That is next. The area inside of this white outline, this is what you will be doing for the various colors that are assigned to you. Please note, the ragged ends are arbitrary. What is critical is to eliminate duplicate colors from the Hue Chroma Triangle, even colors that are simply close. Now to part 2 of Project 13. Picking up where we left off, we have one layer of the Hue Chroma Triangle done. What we need to do next is to do all of the tints and the shades in order to make it look like this. This tutorial will show you the necessary steps in order to accomplish this. Of course, you will be doing this with other colors, but the techniques and the theory still applies. We're going to start with the tints, which means we'll be moving up the grayscale on the Hue Chroma Triangle and using the grays from there to establish the grays for the grayscale to hue file. First, we will need to select the next gray up the 10-step grayscale band on the left of the Hue Chroma Triangle. This will be a tint, and we are going to make this information into our hue to grayscale file. Once inside the hue to grayscale file, you will want to create a new layer and name it New Gradient. First, however, you will want to open the gradient editor and place a new lighter gray at the extreme left end of the gradient editor. And using your gradient editor and the color picker, you will place the original hue at the far right end of the gradient editor, like this. Now, repeating what we did in the last example, drag from left to right and create a new gradient layer, which looks like this and is actually lighter if you compare it to the first one. Notice how much darker the original hue to grayscale example is? Now we will need to do all of the color sampling necessary to make the tint band work with the hue chroma triangle. We will start by removing the pure hue from the very end of the new tint band. We already have it on the first band and there's no need to repeat it here. So using your square marquee tool, we will select that portion of the band and delete it. We will move through each of the ruled areas down through this new tint band and sample and apply the colors just as we did in the first band until we have a graduated series of colors out to the end nearest the pure hue, which we eliminated. When we get to the end of the band at the far left side, we will select and remove the gray from the band because we already have it on the gray scale of the hue chroma triangle. Now, placing our square marquee tool around all of the colors inside of the white border of the hue to grayscale file, we will copy it, or Command C. Toggle back into the hue to chroma triangle and paste it, or Command V. It will come in somewhere like this, and of course we know where it goes, right above the previous layer. So now name this new layer, Layer Value 7 Tint. This will be the first tint above the pure hue of the hue chroma triangle, which is, we already know, was value 6. Now repeat this process for value 8 and 9 and get the remaining tints. If you feel it necessary, do a band for value 10, but you may run out of pure hue pretty fast when mixed with pure white. And for the gray values 5 through 2 to get the shades. Again, you can try to mix with value 1, but it may become too dark, too fast, when mixed with black. And you should have something that looks like this. However, you will have to turn off your rule lines in Photoshop and do some tweaking, as there's some gaps in the color bands at the top and the bottom. The color bands do not align and you may have to do some additional cleaning up, like this little bit of extra color surrounding the removed swatch at the end of value 7 in this example. These things are hard to see with the rule lines on. Turn off the rule lines and do some final cleanup. When you're finished, it should look something like this. As I mentioned at the beginning, everyone will be assigned a color. Some of your colors will appear higher on the grayscale at the right, and others will be lower due to the darkness of the hue. Remember, they all relate back to the grayscale. When we are all done, we will project these in front of the class, and everyone will have a vote as to whether they think that the example is good or not. Remember, these are the files that you will be basing your final project on. You will be sharing these with everyone else in the class, thus making up the 24-step color wheel for this class. And thus you'll want to make sure that you have good examples and a wide range of colors as possible. These will be a permanent part of your color theory portfolio, just like the 12 projects that have come before it. Now we will take a look at the hue chroma triangles from a previous class so that you'll get an idea of what you're going to be working towards. Then we will go on to the instructions for Project 14, which is the final. If while reviewing the examples that you have contributed, plus the ones that were inserted from previous classes, and if you feel that those examples do not stand the test of time, be sure to speak up and we will work through those in the next week before it's over with. I want to ensure that everyone is happy with the entire 24-step hue chroma triangles before we proceed.